And we're going to continue with the Mystery of Marie Rogêt. Inspector Dupin has just finished explaining why the article in L'Etoile was so incorrect about the body, and now the narrator has asked him to explain what is the issue with Le Commercial's take on what happened with the murder. That in spirit, they are far more worthy of attention than any which have been promulgated upon this subject. The deductions from the premises are philosophical and acute, but the premises, in two instances at least, are founded on imperfect observation. Le Commercial wishes to intimate that Marie was seized by some gang of low ruffians not far from her mother's door. It is impossible, it urges, that a person so well known to thousands as this young woman was should have passed 3 blocks without someone having seen her. This is the idea of a man long resident in Paris, a public man, and one who walks to and fro in the city, have been mostly limited to the vicinity of the public offices. He is aware that he seldom passes so far as a dozen blocks from his own bureau without being recognized and accosted, and knowing the extent of his personal acquaintance with others, and of others with him, he compares his notoriety with that of the perfumery girl, finds no great difference between them, and reaches at once to the conclusion that she, in her walks, would be equally liable to recognition with himself in his. This could only be the case were her walks of the same unvarying methodical character, and within the same species of limited region as are his own. He passes to and fro at regular intervals within a confined periphery, abounding in individuals who are led to observation of his person through interest in the kindred nuance of his occupation and their own. The walks of Marie, in general, are supposed discursive. In this particular instance, it will be understood as most probable that she proceeded upon a route of more than average diversity from her accustomed ones. The parallel, which we imagine to have existed in the mind of La Commercial, would only be sustained in the event of the 2 individuals traversing the whole city. In this case, granting the personal acquaintances to be equal, the chances would be also equal that an equal number of personal recounters would be made. For my own part, I should hold it not only as possible, but as very far more than probable, that Marie might have proceeded at any given period by any one of the many routes between her own residence and that of her aunt, without meeting a single individual whom she knew, or by whom she was known. In viewing this question in its full power and proper light, we must hold steadily in mind the great disappropriation between the personal acquaintances of even the most noted individual in Paris and the entire population of Paris itself. But whatever force there may still appear to be in the suggestion of La Commercial, we will be much diminished when we take into consideration the hour at which the girl went abroad. It was when the streets were full of people, says La Commercial, that she went out. But not so. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. Now at 9 o'clock in the morning, in the week, with the exception of Sunday, the streets of a city are, it is true, thronged with people. At 9 on a Sunday, the populace are chiefly within doors, preparing for church. No observing person can have failed to notice the peculiarly deserted air of the town. From about 8 until 10 in the morning of every Sabbath, between 10 and 11 the streets are thronged, but not so early a period as that designated. There is another point at which there seems a deficiency of observation on the part of La Commercial. A piece, it says, of one of the unfortunate girl's petticoats, 2 feet long and 1 foot wide, was torn and tied under her chin, and around the back of her head, probably to prevent screams. This was done by fellows who had no pocket handkerchiefs. Whether this idea is or is not well founded, we will endeavor to see. However, by fellows who have no pocket handkerchiefs, the editor intends the lowest class of ruffians. These, however, are the very descriptions of people who will always be found to have handkerchiefs, even when destitute of shirts. You must have had occasion to observe how absolutely indispensable of late years to the thorough blackguard has become the pocket handkerchief. And what are we to think, I asked, of the article in Le Soleil? That is a pity. That it is a pity its indictor was not born a parrot, in which case he would have been the most illustrious parrot of his race. He has merely repeated the individual items of the already published opinion, collecting them with a laudable industry from this paper and from that. The things had all evidently been there, he says, at least 3 or 4 weeks, and there can be no doubt that the spot of this appalling outrage has been discovered. The facts here restated by Le Soleil are very far indeed from removing my own doubts upon the subject, and we will examine them more particularly hereafter in connection with another division of the theme. At present, we must occupy ourselves with other investigations. You cannot fail to have remarked the extreme laxity of the examination of the corpse. To be sure, the question of identity was readily determined, or should have been, but there were other points to be ascertained. Had the body been in any respect despoiled? Had the deceased any articles of jewelry about her person upon leaving home? If so, had she any when found? These are important questions, utterly untouched by the evidence, and there are others of equal moment, which have met with no attention. We must endeavor to satisfy ourselves by personal inquiry. The case of Saint Eustace must be re-examined. I have no suspicion of this person, but let us proceed methodically. We will ascertain beyond a doubt the validity of the affidavits in regard to his whereabouts on Sunday. Affidavits of this character are a readily made matter of mystification. Should there be nothing wrong here, however, we will dismiss St. Eustace from our investigations. His suicide, however, corroborative of suspicion, was there found to be deceit in the affidavits is, without such deceit, in no respect an unaccountable circumstance, or one which need cause us to deflect from the line of ordinary analysis. In that which I now propose, we will discard the interior points of this tragedy and concentrate our attention upon its outskirts. Now, the least usual error in investigations such as this is the limiting of inquiry to the immediate, with total disregard of the collateral or circumstantial events. It is the malpractice of the courts to confine evidence and discussion to the bounds of apparent relevancy. Yet, experience has shown, and a true philosophy will always show, that a vast, perhaps the larger portion of truth arises from the seemingly irrelevant. It is through the spirit of this principle, if not precisely through its letter, that modern science has resolved to calculate upon the unforeseen. But perhaps you do not comprehend me. The history of human knowledge is so uninterruptedly shown that to collateral or incidental or accidental events we are indebted for the most numerous and most valuable discoveries, that it has at length become necessary in any prospective view of improvement to make not only large but the largest allowances for inventions that shall arise by chance and quite out of the range of ordinary expectations. It is no longer philosophical to base upon what has been a vision of what is to be. Accident is admitted as a portion of substructure. We make chance a matter of absolute calculation. We subject the unlooked for and unimagined to the mathematical formula of the schools. I repeat that it is no more than fact that the larger portion of all truth has sprung from the collateral, and it is but in accordance with the spirit of the principle involved in this fact that I would divert inquiry in the present case from the trodden and hitherto unfruitful ground of the event itself to the contemporary circumstances which surround it. While you ascertain the viability of the affidavits, I will examine the newspapers more generally than you have as yet done. So far, we have only reconnoitered the field of investigation, but it will be strange, indeed, if a comprehensive survey such as I propose of the public prints will not afford us some minute points which shall establish a direction for inquiry. In pursuance of Dupin's suggestion, I made a scrupulous examination of the affairs of the affidavits. The result was a firm conviction of their validity and of the consequent innocence of St. Eustace. In the meantime, my friend occupied himself with what seemed to me a minuteness altogether objectless. In a scrutiny of the various newspaper files, at the end of the week he placed before me the following extras. About 3 days ago, a disturbance very similar to the present was caused by the disappearance of the same Marie Rogêt from the perfumery of Monsieur Leblanc in the Palais Royal. At the end of the week, however, she reappeared at her customary comptoir, as well as ever, with the exception of a slight paleness not altogether usual. It was given out by Monsieur Leblanc and her mother that she had merely been on to visit some friend in the country, and the affair was speedily hushed up. We presume that the present absence is a freak of the same nature, and that, at the expiration of the week, or perhaps of the month, we shall have her among us again. Evening paper, Monday, June 23rd. An evening journal yesterday refers to a former mysterious disappearance of Mademoiselle Rogêt. It is well known that during the week of her absence from Leblanc's perfumery, she was in the company of a young naval officer, much noted for his debaucheries. A quarrel, it is supposed, providentially led to her return home. We have the name of the Lothario in question, who is at present stationed in Paris, but for obvious reasons forbear to make it public. Le Mercure, Tuesday morning, June 24th. An outrage of the most atrocious character was perpetrated near this city the day before yesterday. A gentleman with his wife and daughter engaged about dusk the services of 6 young men who were idly rowing a boat to and fro near the banks of the Seine to convey him to the river. Upon reaching the opposite shore, the 3 passengers stepped out and had proceeded so far as to be beyond the view of the boat, when the daughter discovered that she had left in her parasol. She returned for it, was seized by the gang, carried out into the stream, gagged, brutally treated, and finally taken to the shore at a point not far from that at which she had originally entered the boat with her parents. The villains escaped for the time, but the police upon their trail, and some of them will soon be taken. Morning paper, June 25th. We have received 1 or 2 communications, the object of which is to fasten the crime of the late atrocity upon Menaeus. Menaeus was one of the parties originally suspected and arrested, but discharged through total lack of evidence. But, as this gentleman has been fully exonerated by a legal inquiry, and the arguments of our several correspondents appear to be more zealous than profound, we do not think it advisable to make them public. Morning paper, June 28th. We have received several forcibly written communications, apparently from various sources, and which go far to render it a matter of certainty that the unfortunate Marie Rogêt has become a victim of one of the numerous bands of blackguards which infest the vicinity of the city upon Sunday. Our own opinion is decidedly in favor of this supposition. We shall endeavor to make room for some of these arguments hereafter. Evening paper, Tuesday, June 31st, and we will pause there.